Justin Bieber didn't just survive fame. He survived having his childhood stolen by it. And the person standing on that Coachella stage last night is the living proof that breaking free from who the world told you to be is the most difficult and most important thing a person can do. A 13-year-old kid from Stratford, Ontario, posted a YouTube video of himself singing in his bedroom. Within 2 years, he was one of the most famous human beings on the planet, and the world celebrated that like it was a fairy tale. But here's what nobody talks about. That kid didn't choose fame. Fame chose him. And it chose him before his brain was even finished developing, before he'd ever had a first job, a first heartbreak, a first failure that wasn't broadcast to 800 million people. What happened to Justin Bieber between that YouTube video and the man who just stood on that Coachella stage with tears in his eyes, singing his son's name? That's not a comeback story. That's a survival story. And it might be the most important psychology lesson hiding inside the most public life of our generation. To understand what Justin survived, you have to understand what was taken from him. In 2008, a talent manager named Scooter Braun stumbled across a video of a kid singing R&B covers on YouTube. The kid was 13. Within weeks, that kid was in Atlanta recording demos and auditioning for Usher. Within months, he had a record deal with Island Def Jam. Within a year, he had a platinum single. He was 15 years old. Think about what you were doing at 15. Think about how much of who you are today was shaped by the mistakes you made between 15 and 20. The friendships you chose wrong, the boundaries you didn't know how to set, the version of yourself you tried on and discarded because nobody was watching. Justin Bieber never got that. He got private tutors instead of classrooms. He got bodyguards instead of friends who could tell him no. He got millions of people telling him he was the greatest thing in the world, every single day, before the part of his brain responsible for processing that information had even finished forming. Psychologists call this identity foreclosure, when a young person commits to an identity before they've had the chance to explore who they actually are. It usually happens because of pressure from a parent, a culture, or a system that rewards a specific version of you and punishes any deviation from it. For Justin, the system was the entire entertainment industry, and the identity it locked him into was teen idol, not a kid, not a person figuring things out, a product. And for a while, that product performed exactly as designed. My World 2.0 topped the Billboard 200. He became the youngest solo male artist to do that in 47 years. Baby became one of the most watched videos in YouTube history. Sold out arenas, screaming fans, magazine covers, award shows. From the outside, it looked like a dream. But here's what that dream actually looks like from the inside. Justin said it himself years later. He said he went from a 13-year-old boy in a small town to being praised left and right by millions of people telling him how great he was. And when you hear that enough as a young boy, you start believing it. Everyone did everything for him. He never learned the fundamentals of responsibility. That's not arrogance. That's a child who was never given the chance to become a person. The world built a cage out of applause, and the kid inside it didn't even know he was trapped. But here's where the story turns. And honestly, here's where it becomes about more than just Justin Bieber. Because a lot of us know some version of this feeling. Not the fame part, not the millions, but the part where the world decided who you were before you got a say in it. The part where you spent years performing a version of yourself that earned approval but felt hollow. The part where the gap between who people think you are and who you actually are got so wide that it started to eat you alive. Maybe it was a career your parents picked. Maybe it was a reputation you built in high school that followed you for a decade. Maybe it was just the quiet pressure to be the strong one, the smart one, the one who has it together, when the truth is you were barely holding on. Justin's version was louder, more public, more extreme, but the wound is the same, and the way he healed it, that's the part worth paying attention to. He stepped away, not just from touring, from the entire identity the world had built for him. He got married to Haley, and he's talked about how that relationship taught him patience and trust, and what it feels like to be loved by someone who isn't performing love for an audience. He found a faith that gave him something bigger than the mirror the industry kept holding up to his face. He became a father, and somewhere in all of that, something shifted. The kid who was told his value came from how many people screamed, his name started building a life where his value came from who he was in a quiet room with the people who actually knew him. That's not a small thing. Psychologists call it the shift from extrinsic to intrinsic motivation, moving from doing things because of external rewards to doing things because they align with who you actually are. It sounds simple on paper. In practice, it's one of the hardest psychological transitions a person can make. Most people never fully make it. Justin Bieber made it in public, with the entire world watching, and most of the world either not caring or actively rooting against him. And then there was, last night, Coachella, the biggest stage in music, the kind of moment that, 10 years ago, would have been about proving something, about showing the world he was still relevant, still powerful, still worthy of the applause. But watch that acoustic section. Watch him sitting in the middle of that walkway with just two guitarists. Watch his face when he sings the words he added to Everything Hallelujah.
Everything hallelujah. Mom and dad hallelujah. Haley babe hallelujah. Baby Jack hallelujah.
That's not a performance. That's a man who survived having his identity stolen, rebuilt it from scratch, and is now standing on the stage that once would have defined him, and choosing, in real time, to let the people he loves define him instead. Tears in his eyes, his wife in the crowd blowing him a kiss, his son's name echoing across the desert. That's what surviving your own fame looks like. It doesn't look like reclaiming the throne. It looks like realizing the throne was never the point. Justin Bieber spent the first half of his life becoming what the world wanted him to be. He spent the years after that nearly being destroyed by it. And he's spending the rest of it becoming who he actually is. Not the teen idol, not the cautionary tale, not the comeback kid, just a husband, a father, a person who makes music because he loves it, not because he needs it to know he matters. He was asked once years ago what it was like to grow up in the spotlight. And he said something that most people scrolled right past, but that says everything. He said he grew up in a system that rewarded his gift, but didn't always protect his soul. He was 13 when that system found him. He's 32 now, and for the first time, the gift and the soul are in the same place. Maybe that's enough. Maybe it always was.